All right.
He's here.
Good evening. I'm calling to order the February monthly meeting of the Concord School Board. It is February 6th, 2023. And at this point, Ms. Hastings, will you call the attendance roll?
Yes. Mr. Weinberg.
Aye.
Mr. Cotton.
Here.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
Ms. Higgins.
Here.
Ms. Meeker.
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Here.
And I am here as well. So we have everyone here tonight.
Very good. So we have a quorum, so we will proceed with the meeting. The next item is the approval of the agenda, and at this point, I will make an adjustment to the agenda, and I would like to pull the regular monthly meeting minutes and the Finance Committee minutes out of the consent agenda. We will do them immediately after the consent agenda. I have some minor changes with regards to that. And are there any other? Mr. Cotton?
I'd like to move that we move the celebration in front of the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second, yeah.
Ms. Higgins. Any discussion? In that case, all those in favor of both those items with regards to the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Well, obviously, we want to move the best part right up to the front. So, Superintendent, we would like the Millbrook School to be the first thing on our agenda, if you could.
Well, I think that's a great motion, and so I'm looking for Principal Scapardi to bring. As you can see, she brought a small crowd with her tonight, so it's a pleasure to have you speak tonight and share the celebration of learning that you have for the students at your school.
So when you ask us to celebrate Millbrook, it's hard to pick just one thing. So we did a couple of different things. In front of you on the table, we have some hearts. They represent each classroom in our school, and each student wrote down what they love best about Millbrook. So you can take a look at some of those, and it just gives every student a chance to let you know what they want to celebrate. And then I'm going to invite Ms. Surratt to come up. We've really focused a lot on math and our learning around math and growth, and so I'll have Ms. Surratt introduce our video.
All right, we've got lots of people here who want to share all of the great things that are happening at Millbrook School, but we wanted to get you warmed up with a little video about math in action at Millbrook.
one thing we're very proud of is that last piece of data, which came from spring last year. We focused a lot on fact fluency so that students would have the most efficient way to solve some more complex problems. You can see we started with some green, and by the end of the year, we had an overwhelming amount of green. We anticipate that same kind of growth this year, so we'll be excited to share some of that. Now, again, I could talk all day about the great things at Millbrook, but I thought you might want to hear from the experts. So we have students from preschool all the way through second grade who are going to tell you what they love most about Millbrook.
All right.
Copies are, you want to start? And then if the rest of us want to come and get in line, and then that will help it to go quicker. You're going to say your name.
Hello, my name is Puppy. Hello, my name is Poppy. Poppy Fiance. My favorite thing about Millbrook is that I love my first day in preschool, and even though I got a big boo at recess, it was still my favorite day.
Good job, kiddo.
Is there like a mic?
Hi, my name is Zara Sawyer, and what I love about preschool is that I love reading books in my library at school, and I love Miss Garpetti's office and my classroom.
All right.
Your office. All right. Come all in.
Hi, my name is Trinity. I like reading books at Millbrook School, and I like PE. They are fun. My name is Grace. My favorite part about Millbrook is math.
My name is David. I like a lot of things at Millbrook School. Some things are Hootie, the principal, the teachers, the playground, art, music, and gym class.
That's a good list.
I've seen you in class at Millbrook.
My name is Savannah. My favorite things at Millbrook Pool are the teachers and reading and music.
Great job.
I'm Natea Stetson, and I like workstations and playing, and I love I forgot what I was going to say.
It's okay.
Math. I love math and seeing my teacher.
Great job, kiddo.
Nice job, sweetie.
My name is Arohi, and I love my school because it has lots of facilities like big playground, library, and cafeteria.
Nice job.
My favorite part of Millbrook is learning math.
Great job.
Good job.
I love Millbrook, but the thing I love most is PE.
Mr. Finney.
I know.
I like learning and playing, but the thing I like most at Millbrook is
I like the people at Millbrook School. They are nice.
Thank you.
My name is Karma, and my name is Karma, and my favorite thing of Millbrook School is doing math.
Awesome. Okay, you ready? Tell them your name. We can close our eyes if you want. Would that help?
My name's Malachi, and my favorite part about Millbrook is PE. My name is Bennett, and my favorite part of Millbrook show is choice time and recess.
Time and recess.
My favorite things about preschool are centers and snacks and recess.
Good job. Ready? Want your sister to go first? You ready, Pri? Okay, go ahead. Tell them your name.
And I love listening to teachers at Millbrook School.
Good job. Great job. Okay, good job. Oh, good job, everybody. Good job.
Okay, so yeah.
It's okay to be nervous.
Yeah, I think they put it best. They're the ones who get to experience it every day, so we hope you've learned a little bit more about Millbrook School. Thank you for having us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
all.
everyone.
Can I just ask how many of the excuse me, boys and girls out there are in kindergarten?
Raise your hand if you're in kindergarten this year.
How about if you were in kindergarten at some point? Well, I went to kindergarten with Mr. Finney. I have known him my whole life. Isn't that crazy?
Yay, Concord!
I know, right. And he's a pretty fun teacher, isn't he?
He's a great teacher.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and thank you, families, for coming out and bringing your kids. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
Okay. I just want to say thank you to everyone. We're going to go on with our meeting, and you're more than welcome to stay if you'd like to, but it's a little boring. So I will take a 5-minute recess if anyone would like to go up and go home. So thank you again for coming in.
Thank you all so much.
So cute.
All right, we're back, and we will move on to item number 3, which is the consent agenda. This currently includes the City and Community Relations minutes and the minutes of the Communication and Policy Committee. So, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Higgins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cotton. Any discussion?
So just for clarification, we pulled out.
We pulled out the other two.
Okay.
Just, there are some minor corrections. Okay, and not seeing any discussion, All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Consent agenda is approved. Move on to the two meeting minutes rather that we pulled out of there. First, the regular monthly meeting of January 2nd. I would like to make a couple corrections with regards to that. First of all, Jim Richards is in Zone A, not Zone C. And so can we change that? And Sarah Robinson is in Zone C, not Zone 3.
Yeah.
And then in the nominations for president, I believe the minutes say that Mr. Richards was impressed by Mr. Richards, and while I think I did an okay job, I don't believe that's accurate. I believe it was Mr. Cotton that made that statement, so if we could make that.
Where are we on that?
This
That's on
is
Page
in the
nine.
nominations
Page
for
9.
president.
Page 9.
Page.
2 of 8, 4. One more.
Not in that page
Not
9.
that page 9.
The
Yep. The pair.
right in here, it says Bob Cotton nominated Jim Richards, seconded by Jonathan Weinberg. Mr. Richards commented that he was impressed with his ability to lead the meetings.
Well, I
And
think we should leave that.
so I know everybody thinks
All
that's
right.
amusing, and
That is
but
fun.
it's not necessarily accurate.
Mr. Cotton said that. Okay.
And I believe after that, I thanked Mr. Cotton for his kind words, and I don't want to take that away from him, so. The other item I saw was in the January board meeting, 6B. I believe we were looking at a multi-factor, not a multifaceted, authorization in 6B.
Yep.
I don't know, I do not have any other changes to those minutes.
what page
unless,
that
I
It's
don't,
on page 11.
Thank you.
item 6B,
First paragraph reads, "We have implemented a multifaceted authentication."
right, it's actually multi-factor authentication.
Thank you.
Those are the only changes that I found in the January board minutes. Does anyone else have any changes? If not, I will make the motion that we accept the minutes as amended. Is there a second?
So are we doing that?
Just the
Just the-
January board at this point.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Walsh. Any further discussion?
Who was the first?
I made the motion.
Pam, second.
And Pam seconded. Okay? Without any further discussion, all those in favor of approving the adjusted minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Those minutes are approved. Thank you very much. And then the Finance Committee meeting, the only change that I saw there is that the committee members present were Ms. Walsh. Both Mr. Weinberg and I were other board members who were present who are not on the committee, but we were temporarily appointed to the committee for that day, and I just want to make sure that that's clarified.
And it says that in the, but it doesn't
Yeah,
clarify that.
but up at the top, and so, are there any other, those are the only changes that I saw with regard to that. Does anybody have any other changes for those minutes? Not seeing any, I will make the motion to approve those minutes as amended as well. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The Finance Committee minutes are approved as amended. With that, we will move on to recognitions and reports. Superintendent, do you have any introductory comments, or do we go straight to our
Oh, right to our
reps?
students.
Let's go to our student reps.
I guess I'll put it over here. Hi everyone. This year's flying by and we just started semester 2. This means that we're diving into some new classes and a lot of people are adjusting to new schedules, but so far we're off to a great start. A few weeks ago we had intersession week which allowed students to participate in different activities and remediation, as well as different academic things and some clubs. And one of the activities was an investment challenge where students are given a fake $100,000 to invest in stocks over the next 4 months. And then the top 3 moneymakers will get prizes, and a lot of people have been very interested in that. So that's a pretty good example of how we use that time to do something kind of different. And there's also, speaking of money, there's a margaritas fundraiser on February 16th, so we encourage everyone in the community to go and support if you can.
Do you know the date of that?
16th.
The 16th.
Is it any time during the day, Finn? Or is there any times?
Sure.
I believe it's after 4.
Yeah.
After 4? Very good. Look forward to seeing you there.
So with the start of semester 2 has also become the beginning of the end for winter sports, and many prepare for playoffs or state meets. Many events have also helped kick the start of the new semester. We've had our second pep rally of the year last Friday, and there was many performances by students and a lot of fun games involving the entire school. The following night was the techno dance that was hosted by the senior class, and that was a very big success. Class assemblies were also held last Friday, and they began to talk about class registration. I know the junior class talked about the college process and studying for SATs. And along with class registration opening, spring sports registration is also open, and if so, for families to sign up. And there's only a few more academic weeks until February break, and I think everyone was looking forward to the end of this month.
Thank you both very much.
Thanks, guys.
Does anybody have any questions for our student representatives? Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
Is it still the stock market game? Is that what it's called?
It's Mr. Previs.
And for the fundraiser, is that for GAP or
It's for the senior class.
the senior class fundraiser? Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Brown, do you have any good stock tips for us? Well, good luck.
Buy low, sell high.
You've learned the critical points of the stock market. All right. Very good. Thank you. Superintendent, your report's next.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have a couple of celebrations tonight just before I get into a few remarks. And I just wanted to let the board know about a situation that occurred in our school, one of our schools. And I can't really get into any details because it involves a student. And so with privacy and confidentiality, it's important. But what was important about what happened is that we had a youngster who was had a significant medical issue, and we had our school nurse and our nurse that we have employed through an agency immediately come to the aid of that child and literally saved his life. They were, as it reported to me from the principal, that they were unbelievable in the response and the skills that they demonstrated. They immediately called the ambulance. The parents were called in, and happy to report that the youngster's doing great and he's fine. But I think it's just a matter of just letting people know how important those school nurses are and the work that they've done. I mean, I don't think anyone would question the work they've done during the COVID, but that work that they do continues every day, and it's not just an expense that we take on without a real strong purpose. So I just wanted to share that story with you. And I did write personal letters to both of these nurses, and so that they knew that we had acknowledged their incredible work. The second story, and I don't want to embarrass this this young man, but I have to tell you that we were all concerned about this weekend. I think you were. A couple of you emailed me and worried about pipes and bursting pipes, and the weather was just incredible. And we have some old buildings, and we. But in anticipation of that, Matt Cashman and his team just rose to the occasion. They prepared many days before we knew that weather was coming and the temperatures of -30 would be upon us, and they went out and prepared by making sure windows were caulked appropriately and adding additional insulation wherever they could, reminding people about the doors and making sure that they're closed tightly, because all of those things can affect the pipes, the sprinkler systems can freeze up on us. But then Matt and his team were out in the buildings all weekend. I got an email from the president, Richards, over the weekend, and asking how did it go. And it was really, I was so pleased because they were out in the buildings. Saturday morning, Matt was on the roof of Concord High School with a team.
Not jumping.
I think some days he probably I worry about that for him, but that they had every single building covered. They had checks, and we found some things that we were quite surprised at Abbott Downing. We found the gymnasium at 40 degrees. Matt immediately called in the appropriate folks. They were able to use technology to log in and make the correction so that the temperatures went up and we didn't lose anything. So again, I have to say kudos to Matt and his department for the work they did. We had zero problems. We had problems, but they were addressed in a way that would not impact the kids, the students, when they returned to school today. So I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Yes, I think I'd like to express my appreciation and thanks to both groups, both the nurses that you identified. They always do such amazing work, and we appreciate them very much. And Mr. Cashman and his entire team always do outstanding work, but we very much appreciate your efforts this past weekend. It was not a weekend I would want to have been on the roof, so
No.
thank you very much on behalf of the board.
Thank you. I think that it's appropriate for me to share what happened today at Runlet as much as I can. It's still, the police are still finalizing that situation, and it's still under investigation, basically. But I think I can share some things with you that about 1:30 today, I received a note that a post had been made last night using Snapchat and other applications. And it really didn't start out as anything that had any malintent. It started out as what's on your mind tonight kind of thing. And unfortunately, someone posted a threat with, an armed threat, which obviously caused great worry for all of us. But again, I think it was handled very well. The police were called in immediately. They went directly to the school. They began the investigation immediately. Kim and I were there to support the staff over there. They had the students in a campus type setting where there was no people couldn't come in or out. Secured, we call it secured campus, where there's no people leaving or coming into the building. And we asked students to just stay in place in their classrooms, not in the hallways or roaming all over the building. That we asked them to stay in place while the police did their investigation. So they discovered the students that were engaged with the Facebook posting, and they took care of all of that. And when I left this afternoon, when Kim and I left this afternoon, they had it well under control and had identified where the problem came from. So it will become a police matter along with a family matter and a school matter. We'll take care of that in the morning. I did reach out to Chief Osgood. I felt like these kinds of incidences cause a lot of anxiety for our families, our parents, our grandparents, our community in general, quite frankly. And so I asked Chief to stage additional officers at the school so that folks could see that, and they will also do that tomorrow. And so there will be officers morning and throughout the day in the buildings, just to let people know they're around. They care about the youngsters at the school, and they want to make sure that everyone is safe. So that's kind of where it's at. I'll if there's any additional information, some of that will be non-public because it will involve a student, but I will share that when I have the final report from the police.
Ms. Walsh?
I think one concern I heard from parents is, are we truly satisfied that the threat is resolved? And if so, why are we having police there? It's a little bit of a,
well,
but I think
did that yesterday. I did that this afternoon. I talked to the chief because we hadn't been resolved, but we are very close to a resolution, and I will put a message out to parents, letting them know that that we have identified the person involved in it, and so I will let them know that. The additional police was there to just make sure that parents knew that it was done. Not everyone gets all the emails, and I wanted to make sure that people knew that we were making sure the kids were safe.
Ms. Robinson?
Is there a way that students are being communicated with directly about what's happening and sort of helping to tether any of that anxiety that's happening within the school?
That's a great question. I leave that up to the schools. I did not send a note out to the students. That can really cause a lot of anxiety for them, but we have, when we were at the school today, all the counselors, the school psychologist, everyone was out, and they had a stand-up staff meeting this afternoon at 3:45. So Sean White, the assistant principal, gave them the information they needed, and they will talk with the youngsters in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Meeker?
What is the protocol when we ask officers to come to school grounds? Are they in uniform or in plain clothes?
They're in uniform.
They're in uniform. Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Superintendent.
Yeah, my remarks tonight are fairly short. I did send out a newsletter this morning to families just as a regular, trying to update them on things happening, and I want to remind parents that if your child is not up to date with vaccinations, please make sure they are. We are reviewing vaccination reports, so it's important that they be updated. That's state law. That's not a policy, a district policy, it's state law. We know that during the COVID period of time, youngsters did not get to their pediatricians and get those vaccinations that are required. So if you're not sure what your youngster needs, please don't hesitate to reach out to the school nurse, because I think that's really important that we make sure that we're in compliance with all of those vaccinations. By the way, this is not a COVID vaccination. I want to be very clear about that. It's the vaccinations required, the immunizations required to enter school. So I did let them know about that, and reminded parents also about that we have had 5 days of missed school days, and so I was just kind of giving them a heads up about when we might anticipate the last day. But obviously that's still under discussion, and we'll talk with you more about that as we get closer. So other than that, it's a busy week.
Very good. So, questions for the superintendent? All right. Not seeing anything. Let's move on to item C. Are you going to bring forward Mr. Phelps or Phelps? Actually, this is
Phillips. Should say Phillips.
Or would you like one of our members to make that nomination?
Well, I will give you a little bit of background that we've talked to our district clerk and Attorney Taylor, and Patrick Taylor has informed us that Attorney Phillips has agreed to be the alternative should he not be able to provide the direction that he needs as clerk, so he'll stand in and help out. As you know, was the clerk for a lot of years, so it's not a strange assignment to him. So I think that I would hope that the board would be able to elect him as the deputy school clerk.
Okay. So with that, I will accept a motion to appoint Mr. Phillips.
So moved.
Mr. Weinberg, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hastings. I think that's the first I heard. Is there any discussion? I'm very happy that Mr. Phillips has agreed to do this. He has served the district very well over a very long time. Any other comments? All right. With that, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Mr. Phillips will be our deputy clerk. The next item I will take, which is the filling of a vacant seat on the school board. Per the policy, I am nominating Mr. Tom Croto to fill that seat. Mr. Croto's had a very long career as both a teacher and as an administrator. He's served this board previously as a representative from Zone A. He has served on the District Charter Commission as well as a Zone A representative. He's been elected numerous times from Zone A. More than that, Mr. Croto's integrity and his open mind and his willingness to listen to all sides of an argument make, in my opinion, an outstanding candidate. And with that, I am putting his name forward for the to fill the vacant seat for the remainder of this year. As you know, the board needs to approve that, so I am making the motion for Mr. Croto to fill that seat. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cotton. Is there any discussion? We won't be voting on it until after the things. I just want to have some discussion now, but the final vote won't be until after public comment.
Okay, great. That was my
Sorry, nope, that's what I, does anybody have any statements or they have any questions or discussion at this point?
Just to thank Mr. Croto for his willingness to serve again.
Thank you. So, if the board not having any discussion, after public comment, I will bring that up for the final vote. And with that, we will go into public comment session. This is a public comment for anything on the agenda. If you wish to make a public comment, please step forward. Yes, go ahead. Ms. Oatley, we don't have a seat for Ms. Oatley. Can we put a chair over there? Thank you. If you would please just state your name and if you are a resident of Concord. We all know you though, Betty.
I understand the rules. Public comment on items on the agenda. I'll stick to it, pretty much. Pretty much. My name is Elizabeth Hoadley. Most of you know me by Betty. Unfortunately, there's another Betty Hoadley who has to take a lot of heat for people think that she is I and we are not the same person. Just a little bit of quick information for our newest board members. I've been around a while. I graduated from Concord High. Let me see, where do we start? I was 26 years plus a teacher. I was 15 years plus a member of this board. I was 4 years plus on the Charter Commission and the chair 10 years ago, or 12, or whatever it was, and now again recently. But just as importantly, I've been a taxpayer for 62 years. There aren't too many of us here today who have been taxpayers for that long. I want to applaud, absolutely applaud, stand up and do a cartwheel, but I can't do it, your nomination of Tom Croto. Tom's a Concord boy. He went to Concord High. I remember him playing hockey. Okay, he taught in this district. He was an administrator in another district. He being back here and was a board member here, and then he too was on the Charter Commission this last round. So what a resume. How are you going to find people like that every day and have them say yes? You know, he's probably got battle scars from the last budget, and now here he is, right in the midst of another one, and then when you get through that another one, then you've got to go on to the middle school, and if that doesn't give you scars, you must have iron on, iron, absolutely iron. But what a resume. There are a couple of things that have to do with budget and one on policy, but I'll be emailing you directly. I do know how to find your addresses, and many of you have had books from me, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, and they come along and they actually fit. So rather than take up precious time here, I will email you about two things. I'll tell you what they are. One is the policy change that you did last January monthly meeting. One is the policy on-the-fly change that you made at the January meeting. And the other is I have some strong recommendation about class sizes and enrollments. Having served on the curriculum committee, instructional committee, and others things, I do have a little bit of insight into that. Now, lastly, I want to thank you 5 times. Where's Jack? He's not here tonight. I want to thank Jack and whoever else is responsible for listing every single budget work session on the website. Included are 2 open hearings, included are the 2 public hearings. I am sick and tired of the old people like me out there crabbing about taxes, but they never show up. And they say, well, there's no sense in showing up, it's already decided. Well, of course it is, stupid. It's a public hearing at the very end. It's due. You have to have the budget done in order to have contracts, to get the people and keep the people that you want. You know, think about this, folks. So if instead of criticizing people who are here and people who are out there, they'll say, oh, there she goes again. But what I would say to you is stop criticizing and start contributing. Start showing up. Show up at the open hearings. Offer opinions. Let people know where you stand as a taxpayer. Make suggestions. Ask questions. That's the way for this to happen. And quite frankly, folks, these are not conversations. That's a totally overworked word. If you're having a conversation in a budget hearing, I'm very disappointed in you. It sounds like tea and crumpets at Downton Abbey. Let's have a discussion. We don't have conversations, we have discussions. We investigate material, we analyze the material, you debate, you discuss, you decide, and you move on. Because you have mighty work to do. But the taxpayers play a role, or should. So instead of criticizing at the end of when the ball game's in the last of the ninth, and there's 2 outs and 3 and 2, that's not the time to show up. The time to show up and register your interest is much sooner than that. And thank you, Jack, and whoever else is responsible for the website, for all of those meetings being listed. And you can say, oh man, she's gonna be at some of them. Yeah, you're right, the open hearings, but I won't pester you every time. So, really, you have some mighty work to do. I don't have to tell you that. Budget time is always, in fact, I talked to one board member, one former board member, who said, I always had a stomach ache all the way through budget hearing. It really affected her that much. It's hard, hard work. And it's especially hard this year with all the ESSER things. So I am addressing budget, but all I'm saying is hang in there, work hard, don't converse, discuss, decide, debate, and move on. You've got a lot of work to do. And by the way, make sure you take good care of my friend Tom, because he had to have mighty, mighty good staying power to say yes. Would you believe that I have counted 6 people in that zone where the vacancy took place? There are 6 people, and probably more, who could have been approached. But Tom has been here most recently, and you have to be glad, welcome him, thank him, you know, give him a chit for pizza or a little drink or something. You know, make sure that you treat him nicely, because you need that 9th person. We need every single one of you. But it's wonderful of him to say yes. And before I get through, I have to say just one more thing. You know, I'm so old that 2 of the members here are former students. Oh!
5th grade math. Kimball School. I got in trouble all the time for talking
But see, that's the whole point of my mentioning in that is, this is the Concord School Board. It's made up of lots of people who have Concord interests, and some have long Concord histories. Back to elementary school, Runlet Junior High, as it was called then, and Concord High. And we have to respect that history, because it's what makes Concord and what makes Concord schools. So, thank you for listening to me. Please, I'm so glad you got Tom. And Tom, I'm so glad you said yes. And I'm happy for the rest of you, because you've got a wonderful addition. Thank you very much. I'm going home. Old folks go to bed early.
Thank you, Ms.
Unless the
Dudley.
Celtics are playing.
And we echo your desire that many people come to the public hearings when, as scheduled,
Well,
so.
It better change, and it's so disheartening for board members to look out and see 10 people there, 7 of whom are associated with the district. We want to see people who write the checks and take them into City Hall but you want to see them earlier. You don't want to see them at the 11th hour. So encourage them to come and tell them where it is. You know, advertise it. Put it on Facebook if that's what you do. Ask cable TV to run it on the lower part. I mean, there's, you know, you've got a committee that does communications, you know how to do that stuff. So anyway, advertise it. See if you can make this the year when people show up. And by gosh, I'll buy you all pizza.
Thank you, Ms. Oakley.
Thanks, buddy.
Anyone else like to make a comment? Please, sir, come in. Just sign your name and let us know who you are.
My name is Michael Guglielmo. I live at 140 Rumford Street, Concord, New Hampshire. I'd like to make a statement that I don't know if it's on the agenda. If not, is there any exemption in the bylaws that allows a statement to do so?
We have a public comment session at the end for anyone to make a statement on any topic whatsoever.
Okay.
This period is for agenda items only.
Okay, so I'll withdraw. I'll make the statement at the conclusion.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I make a motion to allow Mr. Guglielmo to go ahead?
You most certainly may. The motion has been made to allow Mr. Guglielmo to make his statement during this public session. Seconded by Ms. Walsh. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Mr. Guglielmo, you're welcome to make your statement now.
So I live in 140 Rumford Street. I don't know who represents my ward, 140 Rumford.
That's Ward 4.
4, so that's probably me.
So you represent my ward, Mr. Richards. So my concern is that my daughter here, Bella Guglielmo, she goes to the Krista McAuliffe High School Elementary School, and there is an art teacher there that is 6'4", 250 pounds, wears a full beard, and dresses like a woman. Now, I've complained to the principal about this, and she told me that some of the students actually identify with him. I have an issue with that. I've also addressed it at the superintendent's office, where I spoke with the Title IX officer that said he had a right to do this. Well, I would argue that the test of children's rights in this state is the best interest of a child, and I don't understand how his right to dress like a woman in school trumps the rights of all those students. In fact, I would argue it's tantamount to grooming, and I have an issue with it. So how do we address that? Can we ask the man? And I don't have no problem with anybody's sexual identity. I don't care what you do, as long as you're not doing it in school in front of a bunch of impressionable, 7 to 11-year-olds. That I have an issue with. If it was junior high or high school, who cares? Everybody's come into their own sexual autonomy by that point. We can be open about that. I mean, we're on the 21st century here. No problem with that at all. But I have an issue with this. I believe that the Title IX law that allows this has not been constitutionally challenged. I will do that for the interest of every student in my ward. I'd further like to advance myself for that open seat. And I will be signing up to run for a seat on this board, because I definitely have an issue. I've owned a house here for, since 2005. I'm 60 years old. I am a single father raising 3 children, a 2-year-old boy, a 3-year-old girl, and my 8-year-old. I have custody of all these children. And that's what I have an issue with. So, I mean, can we address that with a dress code? I mean, I don't want to hurt no one's feelings, but I certainly don't want impressionable children thinking that they identify with a 6'5", 250-pound cross-dresser in elementary school.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Guglielmo.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for me? Just so you know, my academic backgrounds, I have a bachelor's degree, specialized studies in paralegal sciences. I also hold a master's degree in political philosophy. So I think that might qualify for me for a seat at this table. I've also run several successful businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guglielmo. Do we have anyone else who would like to make a public comment on agenda items at this time? Not seeing any. I will close the public comments session, and we will move on to the item number 7.
I'll make a motion to approve Tom Croto's nomination to fill the vacancy.
It's already.
I was going to say, I believe we've been moved and,
Yep.
and we're just
Seconded.
to the point of.
Oh, we're just at the point of voting?
Yep.
We're just
Oh,
at the
okay.
point of voting, unless there is further discussion. In that case, but we appreciate your
No
willingness
problem.
to
The
make that
enthusiasm.
motion. So your enthusiasm, Mr. Weinberg. All right, since the motion has been made and seconded, and there is no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, everyone. Mr. Croto is now going to have to take the oath of office before he can sit here at this table. So I believe we have a notary here. So, Mr. Croto, if you'd be willing to step up, please.
Would you like me to take the oath here?
Right there.
With a whole audience.
I don't have to repeat a lot of things.
First Street, Concord, New Hampshire. And they go in line by line. I, Thomas Croto, 16 First Street, Concord, New Hampshire.
Okay, go ahead.
Do solemnly swear that I will bear faith and true allegiance to the state of New Hampshire and will support the Constitution thereof. I, Thomas Croto, 16 First Street, Concord, New Hampshire, do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on, on me as member of the Concord Board of Education, Concord School District, according to the best of my abilities, agreeably to the rules and regulations of Concord School District, State of New Hampshire.
For me, please. And on the 6th day of February, 2023, the said Thomas Croto took and subscribed the above oath before me. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Edinger.
All right.
Mr. Croto, welcome to the board. We are grateful
next to
and
me,
appreciative to have you here. Please take a seat. You can flip the name tag up as a representative for Zone A.
Well, I'm very pleased to be here. I hope I can be of some help.
Yeah.
And,
Well done, Karen.
Excellent. Now, just as a formality, Mr. Croto previously held the position of treasurer of the board. He has submitted his resignation to me with regards to that position, and I will be appointing a new treasurer for your approval at the coming meeting. So, with that, Mr. Croto, welcome to the board. Again.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your support.
Oh, thank you.
And I hope I pass the audition.
Passed as board
Very
member.
good.
You made it. Oh, great.
Yeah, I'm not sure all the younger members of the board know that quote, but I'm very familiar with John Lennon Beatles quote there. So, with that, we move on to item number 8. This is the finance report. Mr. Dunn is not here. Oh, he is. Oh, Mr. Dunn, he snuck in when I didn't see you. He snuck in without me noticing. I was so busy. Well, I'm very grateful you're here, Mr. Dunn. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, in your packet, this is as of February 2nd at 10 a.m. In there is the only difference I did is I got rid of those percentages because that seemed to be confusing the last time I presented. But just some highlights as it relates to certain lines. If you go to the 6.3 section, which is our professional services, you'll see under professional services for pupils and other professional services, there's significant negatives. They're relating to nursing and special ed. Also, we've had to hire 2 temps as it relates to, one was a network engineer. That is no longer, that's going to be on the other professional services. And we also had to hire a clerk up at transportation, both positions which we had trouble filling. The network engineer is now filled, so that expense has stopped. If I move down into the 6.4s, you can see 6.4, 3,000 repairs and maintenance. That is facilities. You'll also notice in the column under encumbrances, sometimes these things will clear up depending on how things run for the year. But this is just where we are at the moment. That it doesn't mean it's necessarily gonna, we're gonna use all the money, but it has been a particularly harsh winter. And we do have 3 quote new schools that are aging all at the same time, and we're starting to see the results of that as well. If I go under to the 6.5, which is purchase services, you'll see under student transportation from other sources, that is the out-of-district transportation or anything that we have to pay for a service where our buses cannot do that. That is also running in the red.
And would that, Jack, include both coming into the district and going out of the district?
Within district and also going out, yep. If we can't have a bus driver, or it's also homeless transportation as well, where we pay parents to bring their kids to school. That will all be wrapped up in that number. Okay, anything other than our own transportation.
Thank you.
And in the supply area, natural gas, electricity, and bottled gas. We trued that up. The last time I showed you, we were at about 300 and some thousand. It's come down a little bit, and part of that is being mitigated by the ESSER funds. But all the topics that I am relaying to you, for the most part, are ones you're going to see in your budget Wednesday night. And as I've started calling around the districts, because I got to get beyond the headline and the monitor, no offense, that is what they're seeing as well.
Questions for Mr. Dunn? Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for your update to the budget. And we will be seeing you on Wednesday.
Wednesday. I'm going to go back and work on my Wednesday.
As we start the budget. All right, thank you very much. Moving on, we'll move on to item 9, personnel. Superintendent, who will be...
Michelle's going to do that for us
All right.
tonight.
Yep. We have 3 new coaches for lacrosse, Terrence Anderson, excuse me, co-ed track assistant coach Sean Breen, and Robert Brown for Run Lit Boys Lacrosse. Those are for the new, excuse me, new staff.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Guerin with regards to the 3 coaches?
I love that Terry Anderson's coming back to coach lacrosse.
Yeah.
He was the founder of girls lacrosse in Concord
He coached
9,000
my
years
girls.
ago.
He coached my girls.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Excellent. Well, with that, do I have a motion to approve the coaching nominations?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Higgins. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Robinson. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
And the next page is returning coaches for the spring sports.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions with regards to the returning coaches as outlined in the board book? Not seeing any questions. I would entertain a motion to approve the returning coaches for spring.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hastings, and seconded by Ms. Robinson. No further discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The returning coaches are approved. And that's everything?
That's it for me tonight.
Very good. Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to item number 10, which is the instructional committee. Ms. Hastings?
Okay. The instructional committee had a very busy meeting on January 9th, and documents to support everything that we'll be looking at tonight is pages 36 through 64 in your board book. And we were going to start with item number 1, which is the high school administrative team restructuring plan. And when I tried to share this with you, is why? Why is this an important thing, and why are we looking to do this now? And it says, it's presented by Principal Reardon. There are 4 main reasons for this restructuring plan. 1, to better foster students' social, emotional educations, the facilities, equipment needs, and to organize, focus, and deliver resources as effectively and efficiently as possible. 2, this new plan will significantly reduce the current everybody does everything approach while still allowing for highly skilled administrators to maintain collaborative collegial relationships. 3, the administration believes that these changes will improve the ability to meet student and staff needs as the school moves forward. And 4, to align with the school district strategic plan that will soon be presented to the board and the community. Interesting to find out that the current administrative structure has been in place since 1996. And it's been guided by a school principal and 3 assistant principals. The CRTC director also acted, while it was Steve Rothenberg, also acted as an assistant principal, but he was doing both jobs. And with the growth of CRTC, that's no longer viable for that person to do both of those jobs. So we'd be looking at adding a new person there. There's a flow chart in the presentation for you to take a look at that shows, 1, all of the different jobs that all of the assistant principals were doing at the high school. And this new flow would allow them to be more specific in what they're doing. They'll still all be doing discipline, they'll still all be meeting with students, and but they'll have more specialized jobs to do as well, maybe curriculum or behavior or different things like that. Let's see. How would this be done? Under the new plan, there would be 2 building principals, the CHS principal that would be located in the main office, and the CRTC principal located in Commons W. And I'm so grateful that the high school administrative team's here to correct anything I say that's incorrect, so we'll have them come up right after. And the plan proposes 3 assistant principals who will report directly to the building principal. The assistant principal for alternative pathways, which would be Common A. The assistant principal for faculty and student life, which would be a new learning common, not currently in practice. The assistant principal for student success and safety, which would be Commons B. And the athletic director would not have new roles as an assistant principal, but is considered administration. A new assistant principal for student behavior at Commons D would be mentored by and report to the assistant principal for student success and safety, which sounds kind of confusing, but they present it really well. and all of that extra information that you've got in your packets explains it too. The specifics of each position are detailed in the Q&As titled Concord High School Administrative Redesign, which has been sent to you and is available to you in the board book. The instructional committee voted 4-0 to recommend adoption of this redesign to the full board, and we are hopeful that upon any questions that you might have and answers that we can provide, that we'll be able to take a vote on this tonight so that they can start planning for next year.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hastings. Thank you,
Do you guys want to come on up, or
administrators, for
can somebody
coming.
come on up?
Questions from the board? Go ahead. Ms. Walsh, you can start off.
Thank you. I guess my first question is, does this plan work if the board doesn't fund a new position? We're just about to start the budget. There's a lot of ESSER-funded positions that we're going to have to make decisions about. It's a difficult year to be looking at additional positions.
It's not going to work as well, because each of these positions, as Brenda was just speaking about, creates a focus for that individual in the overall goals of the building. I don't know if Kathleen or Kim have had a chance to talk to you about the fiscal aspects of this, but the assistant principalship we're talking about is reserved to 220 days rather than 260 days. And we're also looking at retirements and so forth as a way of offsetting any costs that's involved. So I think from a fiscal standpoint, this is going to be relatively painless. Easy for me to say. But the real focus here, what's important, is how we can deliver services to our students. And we can do that much more effectively with the structure that we're suggesting than what we have now and have had for, almost 30 years now. Last thing I'd point out is that I think everybody sitting here knows what a sea change there's been in high school life over the last 30 years. We really need a more focused and effective structure to service our school.
Go ahead.
I would also just like to clarify, Concord used to have a principal and 4 assistant principals, and then the 1 assistant principal position got sort of shared with the CRTC. So this isn't a new position that's been invented. It's looking at the fact that the CRTC is now far too big for one person to do the job of 2, which is essentially what happened with the cut. One person now had to wear 2 hats, used to be 2 full-time jobs, now it's 1. So as someone that taught, was teaching in the district during that time, that was a hit that was felt in the CHS community when that common C person sort of disappeared, so it doesn't change the money question, but what as an educator in the district, I look at it as returning to a method that worked. And while enrollment at the high school isn't significantly bigger than it was years ago, CRTC enrollment is huge, and so it's impossible. It's not the right thing to have one person doing those 2 jobs.
Right.
So that's just clarification for people who might not know that really we're returning a position. We're not inventing a new one.
Other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
For the new position for the assistant principal for student behavior, it says it will be mentored by the assistant principal for student success and safety. Is that going to be for every year or only for the initial year, do we think?
Well, I think that the answer to that question, Jonathan, is contingent upon the evolution of the person we hired.
Got it. Thank you.
I had a question with regards to that, because it seems like a very odd, like that's more of a director than it is an assistant principal as it's laid out here on your diagram, and I'm just curious as to why that assistant principal doesn't have the full stature or responsibilities of the other assistant principals.
Okay, let me answer that totally frankly. The folks you see sitting next to me are extraordinarily talented and experienced people. And folks, I can sit here and say anything I want. I'm going to disappear in a couple of months. But believe me when I say that these folks right here, and I've been at this for a long time, are the most talented group of and dedicated group of administrative educators that I've ever encountered. So yeah, the new person coming in is going to be a junior. Let me back up a second again. When we first talked about this restructuring, we had suggested that they be called associate principals because of their experience and their talent. Now that's difficult because I think the DOE doesn't even have a space for that type of title. But the answer to your question, Jim, is that the new person coming in is going to be a junior member to this administrative team, not a lesser member, but someone who really needs to grow under their tutelage and leadership.
Can I just add for a moment? And part of the thought process of that position is we're trying to have internal succession plan for when we lose a member of the administrative team. It's a ripple that goes quite vigorously through the team. So our thoughts of lowering the commitment to the school year. One, it does have a fiscal savings for us, but two, might be able to lure an experienced teacher out of the classroom who's already invested in the Concord community, who already has their assistant principal certificate, have their CAGs, and just hasn't left the classroom right now because it's maybe not the best time, maybe they're not ready for the year-round working. But the idea is that we'd be able to continue to grow leadership within our building and perhaps get that kind of a teacher or staff member to come out of the classroom and be part of the team. So that was a big part of the discussion around why would we go 220 versus 261. Currently, we've got an assistant principal position, 261 day posted, 50 applicants, not a single teacher from Concord, Runlet, or any other school in the district. So we're not luring teachers out, great instructional leaders out of the classroom with our standard assistant principal contract. So we're trying to try some different things there too. That was a big part of the reason why I went with a 220.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Walsh.
What is the New Learning Commons?
Go on.
Yeah, Commons.
Yeah, so
I was called
are you talking about what is the space or what is the concept?
What is the concept?
Yeah, so good question. So that new assistant principal role would be overseeing teacher development, professional development, and student learning. The learning commons that will go along with it will support students in a different way than, say, a commons works right now, which is attendance and discipline. It will support just that, their learning. So there might be online classes, Edmentum, Plato, VLAX that could be working on in that area. We might run our support classes or our flex classes or learning labs for different departments out of that area. So the learning commons would be just that. It would be in an area where there'd be an administrator who's overseeing the learning and curriculum and development of both teachers and the students in an area of the building.
Just one
Go
more
ahead.
piece to add to that. It's very much in line. If you look at other school districts, their curriculum instruction and assessment coordinator, it's very much in line with that sort of a position. So, we looked at something like 30 plus schools through New England across the nation. It's one of the more common positions we don't have currently at Concord High School. Bedford, Rochester, Pembroke Academy across the Merrimack currently have that position. So we're trying to look at what's changing around us in administrative leadership in similar high schools and the high schools that are doing well, and that's a position that continue to pop up as being in other administrative teams, but not in ours.
Okay, I'm going to follow on, and having had two children who have gone through the high school, and with all due humility, the assistant principals do more than just discipline and attendance in those commons. They provide a lot of advice, counseling, interaction with the parents. They provide a whole lot of services to the students that are in their commons. How does this layout and this organization assure that dedication and commitment to individual students across all the commons continues?
That's the idea. If we can focus what we're, create a focus for each of the administrators on the areas that they're focused on versus Jim doing student success, safety, SEL, curriculum instruction and assessment, and discipline. If we can create that narrow focus to one of our major pillars that align with our Concord School District strategic plan, that will free us up to be able to also dive in, dig in, and support students as well as our staff better.
Okay, so the follow-up on that would be, as a parent, if I have a student that needs some assistance with VLAX, am I going to just one person and competing with all of the other students in there, or how will you make sure?
Very similar to as it is now. You're going to have your commons team. We wrap around, and we may tap into the new commons to assist us in programming planning. But you would still have your school counselor, your administrator team to go to as you do now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mr. Croto.
Well, thanks. First question. So, this is a big deal, a big change for your school. What sorts of feedback are you getting from your staff? We know that in order for a big change like this to happen and be successful, you're going to need to have full support, or mostly full support of your staff. Can you tell me what's happening with that?
Yeah, we haven't discussed it with the full staff. We've discussed it with our curriculum facilitators. When I'm sure from them it's trickled down to the faculty. But until we get approval for this, we didn't want to put another thing out there. Once we have the board's approval, we're going to present this to the full faculty, talk it out, answer their questions, and get busy. But we haven't had that discussion yet. It's just too much until we know that it's going forward.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
So thank you as well. This is probably looking a few steps ahead, but is one of the goals maybe in the next few years to retain commons, or to kind of weave them out? And I'm only asking because I know there are no more lockers, and I know the spaces have then be kind of readapted. So I guess, what is the vision?
The commons are fundamental to the well-being of our student body. That building is way too big. There are too many kids to have everything going into one area. So the commons are, I mean, it's not up to me, but I don't think the commons are going away.
Thank you.
Other questions? Go ahead, Ms. Walsh.
Just to go back to the budget again, you're asking us to vote on this, or the instructional committee is recommending we vote on this plan tonight. We start the budget for next year later in the week. Are you comfortable with us going forward without knowing whether you will get the assistant principal? Because I'm assuming that these are that position is not funded at this point.
Correct. I would say, I would go back, Pam, to talking about something I mentioned a bit earlier. We're looking, at the end of every year, positions change. People leave, people move around to different positions. We're looking at several ways that could cover most of the cost of this new hire.
And I'm looking forward to seeing those, but we're not just looking at Concord High School, we're looking at the whole district, and we might think that money should go somewhere else. So I just want to make sure we're all clear that.
To answer your question, frankly, yes, we would. We are comfortable going forward with this.
Thank you.
So just to follow up on that, tonight I think they're looking for your approval of the concept of the reorganization of the high school. And then on Wednesday, we have been working to show you what positions we would need in order to facilitate this, but what things would be changed out. And there are some changes. So we would share that with you because you're right. The impact of this, the costs associated with this isn't just about the high school, it's about the entire district budget. So, but I think they're looking for your approval of the organizational plan. And then they'll deal with the budget as we all do, right?
Other questions? Superintendent, what is your position as the administrator on this?
Right, I've spent a lot of hours working with this team, and they've been diligent with us, and Kim too. So all of us actually at the office have, because we really needed to process this. And the reason that this is so important is that these issues that you see, the alternative pathways, that is huge. That's our adult diploma, that's our second start, that's our all of the programs and tools that we use to give youngsters alternative pathways, and we're spending a lot of time on that, along with, of course, this morning, John and I spent time up at the hospital in Project Search. So all of those programs that our youngsters can access is really important. So the focus, in my career, I saw programs become successful when there was a focus on that goal, that overarching belief that this is the direction. And you see that here. Student life and faculty, as Kylene described, all the curriculum pieces and all and the student learning, and they do incredible different strategies. You heard a few of them. She just rattled them off, but things like flex teaching, teachers coming out of content areas to focus on kids who might need remediation, that happens. Uses of different technology tools like Play-Doh, which allows kids to access their credits. So again, and student safety and success is all around social emotional learning. Jim's been pretty quiet about that, but that is all of the work around social emotional learning, mental health, all the things that we're doing at the high school to support our students in that. So I'm a big fan of being focused and not being so spread out. I always found I never knew when I called up there, Kim called or John called, we never knew who to call because they all were doing all of the work. It didn't make sense. And each of them have strengths, and I think that they have nicely looked at each of their strengths. One of the things we were concerned about, did you build a program for yourself? Is this about your strengths? So we challenged them on that, and because we didn't want that to come across like that. What was the benefit for students at the high school? What was the best way to deliver the support that they needed, that adolescents needed at that age? And they sold us on that. So that's where I'm at.
All right. Mr. Weinberg?
Just a logistical question, and I'm not against, of course, having the athletic director as a part of the administrative team, but is there a reason the athletic director is and not like in art, and art isn't as well? I'm just thinking of the components as when we're looking at the redesign. Why is athletics included and some other aspects are not, I guess?
Is it because they manage staff?
Well, I think when we were laying out this plan, we wanted to list out all of the administrators that we had in our building, everybody on an administrative contract, and really try to demonstrate where they fit within that MTSS pyramid, and kind of where a lot of their focus is and where it is currently and where we're hoping for that to go. And so the athletic director was someone we saw more or less at that tier 1 level for students, and we remain at that tier 1 level. But some of the other positions will also have a much more focus in building systems on that tier 1 level to hopefully combat the amount of students we have going into tier 2 and to tier 3. We'll always have students at those, but what are the systems we can build to hopefully keep students at tier 1?
Thank you for the clarification.
Additional questions? Go ahead, Ms. Meeker.
I wanted to echo Ms. Walsh's comments. Thank you. That I am prepared to support whatever I think the administrators think they need for their high school, but at the same time not wanting to give the impression that we are pre-funding something before we even get into budget season. So I thank you for being honest about where this is headed, regardless of where the budget conversation is going, because I don't want anybody watching to think that we're just, we're approving a budget line item before it's even begun. So thank you for those comments.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So would you like me to make a motion?
You're more than welcome to make a motion, as is any member of the board. So go right ahead.
Well, then I would move that the board approve the conceptual high school administrative team restructuring plan as presented to to the instructional committee.
Motion is made by Ms. Hastings. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Higgins. Further discussion? At this point, I would just, not to drag the meeting out any longer, but I would also take the same position as Ms. Meeker just mentioned, as to not pre-approve any line items in the budget. But other than that, I'm in favor of the organization and concept of this. Any other discussion comments? All right. In that case, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you very much,
Thank
folks,
you.
for coming. Ms. Hastings, anything else on the instructional committee?
There was also the Runlet Middle School alternative placement plan presented to us by Assistant Superintendent Fabrizio and the District Wellness Committee Coordinator Janine Richards. It's an alternative education plan for students in grades 6, 7, or 8 who are exhibiting social, emotional, or behavioral challenges. And this is a program that seeks to be proactive rather than reactive. Students exhibiting emotional dysregulation and at-risk behaviors will be referred, accepted, and then placed in an alternative setting for a minimum of 30 days to work on these social, emotional, and academic skills. They will utilize group therapies, social emotional instruction, and competency-based academic instruction in connection with their current RMS cluster. It's up and running, well, it's almost up and running. They're hoping to have it going by March, I believe. And it requires no funding from the district. It's all being done by ESSER monies. There'll be a full-time therapist to work with the students there. And the hope is to get these students regulated and back in with their classmates and doing their instruction as best they can. So that was just sort of an update on that. And that would be it.
That's all through ESSER funds, yes?
Yes.
Like that costs us nothing right now.
Right, it's not costing us anything right now.
So is there a recommendation or a motion that needs to be made, or is
No,
that just
that's,
informational?
it was just an informational.
Thank you.
But kind of a big one, and wanted to make sure you were all aware of it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do you have anything else from instructional?
No, that is it.
All right, very good. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to subcommittees. Our Anti-Racism and Equity Subcommittee, is there a report for this
Superintendent,
month?
is there a report?
Is that a softball throw? We have met and are really ready to restart our equity advisory. We're excited about that. We have 2 members of the board serving on that committee, which is exciting. We've sent out invitations to community folks, teachers, administrators. So we're ready to kick off, I believe, on the 16th of March. Am I right on that date? We'll have our first meeting, and I think I shared with you the organization that we had designed. I think Jonathan shared it. We had it in your book, I think, last month or the month before. So, and, you know, we anticipate that Quincy Worthley, our DEIJ, will be really facilitating that, although Kim and I are certainly on that committee to support that work. We continue to work with the group from UNH and New Hampshire Listens, but we see us weaning off of that. We use grant money, Title IV, to support their facilitation, but now that Quincy's on board and we're kind of becoming more self-sustaining, that we think we'll be able to wean off of that grant. That will open up the doors for other things that we need to do. So we're ready to go March 16th and excited about it and bringing people together. Anything else to add?
I think that summed it up eloquently.
Oh, yeah, right. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? All right. Thank you very much for your report. We'll move on to the Sustainability Committee. Is there any report from Sustainability?
Superintendent, no, just kidding. She's not at those meetings. We had a meeting last week where we discussed what Concord as a city is going to do with regard to this organization called Community Power, where it's kind of a coalition of municipalities in New Hampshire that advocate together for more renewable resources and infrastructure throughout the state, because a lot of the impediments currently are just there's not enough EV infrastructure, there's not enough infrastructure in general for all the sustainable initiatives that we want to partake in. One of the conversations as well actually did involve the school district, because apparently we've been having conversations with some solar panel folks. Matt, I don't know.
Lodestar.
Lodestar?
Yeah.
And from what I heard, and this was me learning something about the school district at a committee meeting, there is an LOI. Is that?
There is.
There is.
Well, an LOI was sent to the school district, and I believe it's under review with our attorney.
With our attorney. Do you want to talk about that more, or?
Jack was handling a big part of that as far as the legalities of it, so
Okay.
I think we could do it later.
We can do it at another meeting. But essentially, this is with a solar company that is being represented by a local attorney. It's not to procure any project, just to open dialogue about potential projects for the district and city.
Can I ask, is this for a question, just is this pertain towards existing buildings, or is this looking only towards our future construction?
From my understanding, it's both, but I could be incorrect.
It's more net metering, so there's properties around Concord that would make good areas to install solar fields. So it would be harvesting that in different parts of the city and then offering a net metering option.
And recently the state increased the net metering limit to 5 megawatts, I believe, which is very important for just making sure we can have, or anyone can have, a wider array of options for building. Currently, the next steps are the city's looking at various options, and I think just any way the school district can be involved to discuss how we can collaborate is always valuable. I know we talked about at a potential meeting in the future, which at the sustainability meeting, that we might have Jack and Matt come join just to talk to the committee as well.
Thank you. Other questions? Go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
I have a question. Matt, would you say that a district investment in a solar array could help to offset increased costs that the district is incurring from an electric aspect, natural gas aspect, things of that nature? So just sort of a very leading question. Would you say this would be a good financial investment?
Naturally, but I think the research still needs to continue with an organization like Lodestar to see where those placements are and what the availability of harvesting that amount of power. But that's the whole intent, would be to have solar energy so that we could offset our costs in the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Weinberg, for your report. With that, we move on to other business. Enrollment. Superintendent, are you taking this one?
You can see that on page 65 in your book. Enrollments have stayed pretty much the same. We haven't seen any significant changes. I just bring your attention to some of the challenges that we deal with. I think you heard a little bit of it tonight with Jack when we talked about transportation and just thinking about out-of-district placements, special ed students at charters and homeless students. All those things impact our transportation, and so and I don't have to tell you that transportation costs have really increased a lot. So, but those are the numbers, and those are the kinds of things that will affect our transportation. A lot of the youngsters, special ed, all have transportation, whether it's via vans or small, actually some cars and smaller buses that we use to take youngsters to and from school. So that has really impacted us. But the rest of the your enrollment has stayed pretty steady throughout the year. There's a few fluctuations here and there, but not anything of significance.
Questions? Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
So
No,
I'm sorry.
I was just brushing my hair.
Does anyone have the number from our last meeting, what the district total was?
Well, you just look at your next
If I
page.
just look at the next page,
Right.
that will tell me, and I can add it up?
Right, well, it tells you from month to month where everybody is.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
We did have a question, I think, at one of our last meetings. I think Ms. Walsh had asked about the Deerfield number back in September, and I think it hadn't, it hadn't been cleaned up. So when what Bridget does is she calls over there to get the number, and they hadn't cleaned up the numbers, so they had a very inflated.
Well, September.
Yeah, and they didn't pull them out of the power school.
Oh, I thought the September numbers looked like Deerfield had been added in twice, like as part of Concord High School, and then
Yeah,
we might just
they
want
went
to
back through and went through all of the
correct that at some point.
corrections. Right. There could have been some students in there twice, but we've got that corrected now, and we're at 1461. And just a reminder that we will be hosting Concord High School has a wonderful program. We'll be hosting our families from Deerfield for an open house to come, and they have it set up so that they'll go into the auditorium and meet with the principal and folks at the school. They'll be talking about the different curriculums and the program of studies that youngsters have at the school. They'll also have tours of the Career and Technical Center that teachers from the CTE will be there to take families around and to just get a sense of all the programs that they have. And then they've also set up in the Main Street, you know, the big open hallway upstairs. They're going to have all of the athletic programs, all co-curricular programs will all have tables set up with information on it. So they'll be able to see the kinds of before and after school programs that youngsters can involve themselves in. So we're ready to do that, and they have an invitation that's being sent out to all the families. And we're not just limiting it to 8th grade students at Deerfield, but to all of the families in Deerfield if they'd like to come and see the offerings at Concord High School.
When is that?
I knew you were going to ask me that. The 21st. The 21st of February. Right. Let me just double check. Thank you, Kim. I'm looking in my book. It is the 21st, Tuesday, February 21st.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that I know some of our board members would like to be there too. I have not heard an update on a contract with Deerfield. I do know that the state board tabled it and would not hear the contract because they wanted to be able to allow the community to vote first on the contract before the state board approved it, which is the complete opposite of what we've always done, but it's just something new. So we'll be anxious to see how that works. Any other questions?
What time would that be? Is that in the evening or is that during
6
the day?
o'clock.
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Very good.
I'll put it in my weekly report, hopefully with the correct time.
Much appreciated, Superintendent. With that, we moved on to the proposed calendar of meetings.
Yeah, you're already into your, the second week in February. Wednesday night, you're going to kick off your budget. You've heard a lot about that tonight, so we're anxious to bring it to you and to talk about it. And again, you all realize the complexities of it this time because we've had this $15 to $18 million worth of ESSA funds, and those funds are, they're going away. And so how do we manage all the things that we brought into the system, and move on? So you'll hear more about that. And the following week, we have another a budget meeting on Monday, which will focus on capital facilities and debt service. Those two kind of go together. On Wednesday, the 15th, student services curriculum and grant funded. That's a big chunk. So we also have the 20th, right after our executive committee meeting, to follow up on the 15th, because it's a lot to that one. Student services, curriculum, and our grant funds. And so on the 22nd, we have an open session, and that open session it will allow you to continue any of the work that you need to do if you haven't been able to hear all of the reports, and have your, as Betty Hoadley said, have your discussions, not conversations. March, same routine. I think you noticed that we sort of put a hiatus to committee meetings a little bit, just because you have budget meetings, and so we'll have. I know that the technology meeting has been changed because that didn't give you enough time. So Jack and I will change that one up in March. That was the March 6th. We did put in negotiations on the 8th in March because we are still in negotiations with CEAA. That's our educational associates. Jack and the team, Michelle's on that team, John's on that team. We'll have an update for you, so we'll know where we're at with that group. Hopefully you'll have a resolution by then. Well, I'm hoping. 13th, we are going to have an instructional committee meeting. We felt like we needed to do that. We didn't want to wait. So, and then that following week, another really important meeting. Finance first thing at 5 o'clock, just to kind of get an update where we are. But at 5:30, the budget, and that's really around all the data for the enrollment for Career and Technical Center, as well as the Concord High School. So remember, I think Finn responded about how you're choosing courses and beginning to select courses and what they're going, not you, because you're going to graduate, but Sophia, you'll be picking your classes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so you'll have that data. So you'll be able to look at the data, look at class sizes, look at where all the numbers are and how that lays out, because that does affect your budget. Do you need a teacher? Can you reduce a teacher?
Yeah.
That kind of exercise, okay? And then you have two public hearings scheduled, the 20th and the 22nd of March. Again, another open budget session. I hope you'll use that to deliberate what you heard at those public hearings. And then on the 29th, as Jack will always say, that's really important. We need everyone present so that you can vote and finalize the budget for fiscal year '24. Okay?
So Superintendent or Mr. Dunn, what is the date that we will be posting the tentative budget that we will be discussing then? Is that March 8th? Thank you. And just for clarification, when we're posting that budget, that is not approving the budget, but just posting the budget for our further discussions and modification. Okay. Other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
Well, it's not about the proposal of the calendar, but
general
just
over.
general
Other
overview.
questions? I'll be with you in a second. Other questions with regards to the calendar?
No.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr.
Well,
Weinberg.
Finn and Sophia, I meant to ask you this earlier. How do you feel about the high school redesign?
About the high school redesign?
Yeah, the administrative team redesign.
Be a little more
organizational.
like,
I know,
specific on the
but specific. Do you think it's the right move for the district?
I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to have more adults in the building who are going to be supporting kids. I mean, it's always really nice when you have somebody who can come and actually help you and focus on you. So I think, somebody who actually knows exactly what you need is probably a good thing.
I'm a part of Commons A, and I know personally that Ms. Choloskas is my assistant principal, and she has always been a big help, and I can always go to her for advice because she's technically my advisor as well, and I know she does a lot for the school, and I hear great things about all the assistant principals, and I think having another figure like that in the building is definitely going to be helpful, especially because they really do a lot for students. And as a student in Concord High, I know that, and I've seen it with my friends and other students in the school. And having them be able to focus on more individuals, I think would be very helpful. So.
You got good responses.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Weinberg.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Weinberg, for asking that question and asking the input of our student reps. So, very good. Well, with that, I believe we are at the second public comment session. Is there anyone who would like to come up and make a public comment on any topic whatsoever? Not seeing anyone. I will close that session. And then I believe I would entertain a motion. We need to go into non-public session. For the people who are watching at home or from streaming, after the non-public session, we will be immediately adjourning without taking on additional business. So we will stop our streaming and televised broadcast immediately after this vote. But so with that, I would say, do I have a motion to go into non-public session?
So
Okay, pursuant to, and this is accurate here, yeah, it was,
We'll give it to Kara this time. How's that?
Kara made the motion.
Actually, I made it. So
Sarah
Sarah
made the
did,
motion and
okay.
Kara made the second. No?
Barb and I both moved the motion initially.
All right, I'll give Barb the second.
Okay.
Teamwork.
Okay, and this is pursuant to 91A, colon 3, section 2A, and 91A, colon 3, section 2D. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right. The motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. This is a roll call vote, so Ms. Hastings, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Weinberg?
Here.
Yeah.
You said I
Be
before
aye.
I sang here. I see
Mr.
how you
Cotton?
operate.
Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yep.
Mr. Croto?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So
All right.
9-0.
9-0. So with that, we are going into non-public session. Thank you, everyone.